This is the Harry Loomis Show.
Welcome back to the Harry Loomis Show. Today is Wednesday, August 21st, the day after the Cardinals dropped a brutal game by the score of 3-2 to the Milwaukee Brewers. And this is what the crowd looked like about 20 minutes before first pitch. I found this picture on Twitter, and it says everything you need to know about the state of the St. Louis Cardinals. Credit to the person that took this picture. I'll have that up in post edit. But things are so bad right now for the Cardinals. This is a team that added pieces at the deadline, brought in Eric Fetty, brought in Tommy Pham. Yes, you moved guys like Tommy Edman and Dylan Carlson, but this team added pieces that they thought could get them to the playoffs. And since then, things have gone so unbelievably wrong for them, and it is nobody's fault but their own. Right now, the Cardinals are sitting at 61-64. That's a .488 win percentage, 6 games out of a wild card, and 12 games out of the division lead behind the Milwaukee Brewers, who they just lost to last night. They are on pace to win 79 games this season. And why this is a surprise, I don't know. On my show, Unsportsmanlike Content, before the season, I had the Cardinals going 77-85. Yes, they got better in the offseason, but they didn't get that good to the point from going from a 71-91 team to a playoff contender. They were in a playoff spot. Great. The NL's not great this year. Teams like the Padres, the Diamondbacks, the Mets, the Giants, the Cubs, all who are ahead of them in the wild card race have had their moments. The Braves are still a very good team, but they've been ravaged by injuries. The Padres are coming on strong, led by manager Mike Shilton. Remember him? They're leading the wild card right now. The Diamondbacks started out terribly. They're coming on strong. They're the second wild card. The Mets faltered. The Giants are coming on. We got passed by the Cubs, who had a horrible start to the year. This is more or less what the Cardinals are right now. And the problem with that is you're not a playoff team. Okay, fine. You can make some changes. You can switch up the lineup and things like that. And Ollie Marmol at least did that. He moved guys like Nolan Gorman and Paul Goldschmidt down the lineup. They were batting Goldschmidt 7, Gorman 8 last night. But last week, the Cardinals made the great decision to bring back up Jordan Walker because he's been mashing in AAA. He's a guy, he is this franchise's future. We need him in the big leagues, learning how to adapt to MLB hitting as soon as possible. And he got a week in a platoon role. He wasn't great, but he was at least getting those at-bats that he needs. And now today, or yesterday, Matt Carpenter got called up, or he got called back from the IL. Brandon Crawford got sent down. Luken Baker got called up, which is fine. He's mashing. But the corresponding move was to send Jordan Walker back down to AAA. What are we doing with him? Has any top prospect, let alone a top Cardinals prospect, a top prospect in baseball recently, gotten moved up and down and just played with as much as Jordan Walker has been? Let me know if I'm missing one. But Mozeliak's thoughts on optioning Walker. I just think he still needs to be playing. This is from Bally Sports Midwest. That's the most important. We still believe that he's going to be an enormous talent in the league. I do too. My problem is this team is not contending for the playoffs. They are playing so bad right now. They can't hit worth a lick. How does he not have a spot in the MLB lineup? How? Last night, the Cardinals could not solve Frankie Montas to save their lives. Montas went 7 innings, 1 hit, only 3 strikeouts on 89 pitches. And Eric Fetty, the guy the Cardinals got from the deadline, who hasn't been great, wasn't awful last night. 5 2/3, 6 hits, only 2 runs, 2 strikeouts, 4 walks. You can live with that. Only 2 earned runs in the 6th inning is fine, but not when the team can only get 1 hit. Bernie Miklasz, who's just been a gem throughout this whole losing streak, now that he's been back on Twitter pretty active, he's just been fantastic. This month, Burleson, Contreras, Wynn, Pham, Goldschmidt, Donovan, Gorman, Nootbaar, and Scott, that's a pretty big lineup, that is 9 batters, have combined for 9 hits in 92 at-bats with runners in scoring position. That is an average of 0.98. Do you want to know how bad it has gotten specifically for Goldschmidt and Gorman, who were 7-8 last night? Bottom of the ninth last night, 3-2 game because Carpenter hit a home run in the eighth. The Brewers intentionally walk Lars Nootbaar to load the bases for Goldschmidt and Gorman with 1 out, chance to win the game. A base hit wins that game. And what happens? You have Pedro Paez on the bench. You have Luken Baker on the bench, who you just called up because he is mashing the ball. Devin Williams pitching. Paul Goldschmidt, foul tip, strikes out. What are we surprised? Next batter up, Nolan Gorman, who has been dreadful since June. He had a great April, a great May, and he has just faltered ever since. Listen to these stats. Nolan Gorman since June 5th. This is from the Redbird at the Redbird Way on Twitter. 174 batting average, 76 strikeouts, and 178 at-bats. 31 hits, 5 homers, 19 RBIs, 14 runs in 53 games. I added to it. At these rates, Nolan Gorman would have 232 strikeouts over a 162-game span. The record for most Ks in a season is Mark Reynolds in 2009 with 223. That season, Mark Reynolds had a slash line of 260, 349, 543 with 40 homers. So you can live with the strikeouts. He still got MVP votes because he was still hitting the ball that well when he made contact. That's not happening with Nolan Gorman. You knew that going into this at-bat. I could care less about righty-lefty matchups. It's Devin Williams against a struggling Nolan Gorman in a game you have to win. You can't keep giving him at-bats to let him try to figure it out, especially if Jordan Walker's rotting away in AAA right now. Why is Luken Baker waiting on deck? Why is he not batting right now? Why aren't you giving a shot to Pedro Paez? You need a run. Who cares about position deployment after that? You need to score a run there. They keep Gorman in, and he strikes out. So to recap the events that transpired right there. Move Goldie and Gorman to 7-8 because they've been awful. Fine with that. Bases loaded, 1 out in the ninth, keep them in back-to-back strikeouts. That's it. Why is this a surprise? Why is this so frustrating? Because nothing has been done to solve the issue. You called Jordan Walker up for nothing. You sent him back down. That's a problem too. He's not going to get comfortable hitting MLB pitching if you just let him hit AAA pitching. It's a completely different animal. This team is not going to make the playoffs. It's not even in this team's best interest right now to be a playoff team. Get him back up to MLB for good. Play him every single day like you're now going to do with Mason Wynn because Brandon Crawford's gone. Let him adjust. This is the time. The way you're treating him, don't be surprised when he starts 2025 like junk and he gets sent down again, by the way, because that's what happened. Got off to a slow start in 23, was hitting the ball decently for average, wasn't hitting fly balls, so they sent him down. This year, awful. Sub 200. He got sent down. Deserved it this time. What are we doing with this poor kid? Everyone should be held accountable for this. Ali Marmol, John Mozeliak, hitting coaches, everyone that has a say in this team is a disaster right now. And the fact that we still think that we are going to be competitive, the fact that we went into this season thinking we were going to be competitive, this is from Mozeliak, according to John Denton. I just don't think we've played up to our expectations. We're trying to mix and match and figure out how we can get someone hot, but it's definitely not what we've envisioned. What did you envision this year? You went 71-91. The biggest loss you had was Tyler O'Neill, who hardly played last year, and by all accounts was pretty bad in the locker room. Oh, by the way, he's doing great in Boston this year. And here's who you added. Sonny Gray, 35-year-old ace. Kyle Gibson, 35-plus-year-old, probably 3-4 starter. Lance Lynn, 35-plus-year-old, 4-5 starter at best. Added to a lineup of Steven Matz and Miles Michaelis, who were both very bad last year. Matz was better in the bullpen, but then he had to be a starter. And then he got hurt. Don't be surprised there. You also added Matt Carpenter and Brandon Crawford on the bench. I like both of them as players. Carpenter's actually been doing pretty well this year. He's slugging better than a lot of the Cardinals' main pieces, which tells you everything you need to know. Crawford wasn't good. Didn't make sense to have him. taking at bats away from guys like Mason Wynn. He's gone. They mismanaged him too. Why didn't they trade him? Why did they wait this long? Everything about that was just sloppy. But just looking at that lineup, the rotation was the biggest problem back then. And here's the question. Is Sonny Gray an ace you think he can win with? I think he's a great 2. If he's your number 1, you're in trouble. Is Miles Michaelis a good number 2? No. Is Kyle Gibson a good number 3? He's been decent this year, but he'd be a great 4. What about Eric Fetty? Where does he fit in? He's been okay, but even he is an uninspiring 3. And then at number 5, Lance Lynn's been hurt. Matz has been hurt and wasn't good. Palante's been decent. He's given us what we needed. But you also had a kid, Michael McGreevy, who gave you a great spot on a platoon basis, just a quick call-up, and you haven't heard from him since. Why not? Why not give these guys a shot? This team's not going to be any good. This team's not going to be a playoff contender. Anything and everything should be on the table. And I'm wearing a Blues hat for this video because yesterday, Doug Armstrong had the great move bringing in Philip Broberg and Dylan Holloway. And then he got interviewed after saying it doesn't matter if it was Ken Holland or my mother, basically. I was going to send in those offer sheets because my job is to make this team better at all costs. And that same day, you had John Mozeliak saying, well, we need to get Jordan Walker some at-bats, and he's still going to be a good player, but we just need to get him at-bats. If he needs to get at-bats so bad, you tell your manager right now he should be in your lineup every single day. He's a 21-year-old kid. He has all the talent in the world. Don't be surprised at this rate, the way that things have been going, if he's the next Dylan Carlson. If we completely ruin him and we send him off to another team where he develops. Next year, it's probably going to be Lars Nootbaar. This year, it's been Dylan Carlson. Tyler O'Neill's having a great year. You already know about Randy Arozarena. You already know about Adolis Garcia. I'm probably missing some. This needs to be a wake-up call. The team, the way things are set up, the mismanagement of Jordan Walker, the mismanagement of the pinch hitters, this empty stadium behind me, everything should be a wake-up call to Bill DeWitt. Something has to give. Cardinals fans are calling for everybody's head that has a say in this. Marmol, Mozeliak, Gersh, Turner Ward, everyone basically except Shane Bloom because he just got here. And honestly, are they wrong? The Cardinals in full seasons haven't had back-to-back losing seasons in decades. 94 and 95, they had losing seasons. Those weren't even full seasons. There wasn't even a playoffs in 94. This is near unprecedented levels of bad Cardinals baseball with so much talent being squandered. Granted, we've been lucky. I was born in 2000. The Cardinals had 2 World Series championships by the time I turned 10. You know, I know some people that were born in the late 80s that had to wait till they were in their 20s for that 06 team. I'm spoiled. I'll admit it. But I'm also willing to admit the fact that the team has just coasted on that reputation. They haven't. When's the last time they went bold and made some big crazy move? When's the last time you really thought this team was a World Series contender? I drank the Kool-Aid in 2022, and then I thought it was going to turn over into 2023. Since 2011, they just coasted on that reputation, getting in as a wildcard team. Mozeliak thinking he did some masterclass job, even though most of those players were brought in by Walt Jocketty. Look at who led that team. David Freese was a young prospect. Albert Pujols, 2001. Chris Carpenter came in 04. Yadier Molina made his debut in 04. Who were the biggest guys he got? Matt Holliday wasn't even that great in 2011. I think he had some injuries. And Lance Berkman, I'll give Mozeliak credit for that. He was unbelievable in 2011. But that's about it. The big pieces had already been there. It was just the right timing for that team to win a World Series, and I'm glad it happened. But they've coasted off that ever since. It's time. You got to move on. This team is in such disarray right now, and it's so not indicative of the St. Louis Cardinals. Do these empty seats remind you of St. Louis Cardinals baseball from the past 20, 25 years? If there's anything I know about the DeWitts, it's that as long as they're going to keep making money, they're going to be okay. They are not making a lot of money right now. This is the only thing the fans can do to protest is to not show up, not spend money on this team. And it sucks to see. Last night, the crowd was just over 30,000. For reference, the Oakland Athletics had more fans on Sunday against the Giants in the last game of that rivalry at Oco. At Oco. It's so bad right now, and something needs to be done. Cardinals fans are not calling for half measures, they're calling for heads, and you can't blame them for it. I don't know what the future holds for this team. I don't know what's going to happen in the offseason, but it's going to have to be drastic or else it's simply not good enough, and you can't be surprised to see the team in a similar situation for the third straight year. Let me know your guys' thoughts on the Cardinals. I think it's really bad right now. What needs to be done? What would you do if you were in charge and had total autonomy of the Cardinals? Let me know. That's going to do it for today's episode of the Harry Loomis Show. Thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you again soon.
This is the Harry Loomis Show.